one of our to bringing FEMS forward was integrating the field moisture database into FEMS. And the initial intent was to just get an operational system so that the community would be able to at least start entering in field moisture sample information and providing at least some basic display information. And so understanding that we have been taking this step by step, we're literally opening it up the information as we build it, and we are not fully capable as of right now, and we won't be fully capable to what really the full needs are of the community for a little, for quite some time, honestly. And we know that you guys have a lot of needs. We understand that. We're working very hard to get those. But we just want to be able to have something, at least right now, for the time being, so that you guys can at least enter in information. At least it's stored in a secure database and it's available to everybody at this time. So those are really the main goals while we continue with the development of the field sample database and as well with FEMS and moving forward with bringing and providing you with weather and fire danger information in the future. So Rachel has been and Scott Turner have been helping us over the past 4 months now, 3.5, 4 months with Field Sample. They're really both very well versed in the program. They've been integral into a lot of the communication efforts, working with our local area editors, as well as a lot of the sampling partners to get the communication and information out to everyone and making the transition as painless as possible. We know it doesn't come without the aches and pains. We understand that. We try and do our best to minimize that, but we understand that there are a lot of growing pains along with this. So please just be patient with us. We're and try not to be too harsh and critical of it, just because we know we're doing our best. We're just humans, but we have a very small team. Scott. I know Jen went through this for a long time. So so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Rachel. She's going to go through today really a lot of the basics of what field sample is, a lot of the questions that we get, which are really a lot of them tied down to really a couple of key pieces. And then I'm just going to be listening in. Rachel's done a lot of these presentations, a lot of the recordings. We have a lot of training material out in many different locations. So if you need anything, please reach out to one of us. We'll be able to get you whatever information you need. But I'm going to hand it over to her and let her do the display. And if you guys have other questions as well, we really want to keep this as an open forum about field sample. And then as well, if we get done where we don't have any questions for field sample and you just have questions about FEMS in general moving forward, I'll be available around later on. So over to you, Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Travis, I saw you're on, and Scott Turner. Do you guys want to turn your camera on just for a moment and introduce yourselves?
Travis Vertigan. I'm a predictive services coordinator. I work for the state of Minnesota. I have been leading as a NASF representative on the FEMS project and picked up the field sample transition as kind of one of the 3 agency leads to kind of divide and conquer. So I'm here. Rachel knows the system well, and if she needs to phone a friend, I'm here to kind of help out in those regards. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, I'm Scott Turner. I'm a fire planner in Alabama. I've helped out with a couple FCOP revisions and have been in the detail alongside Rachel, helping to push out the field sample database, part FEMS, to the field and working through some technical issues.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks, Scott. So Travis has been here from the very beginning with Shelby Law. So he has seen this progression with FEMS and field sample database. It's just awesome to have a state resource meteorologist to keep us grounded and not just Forest Service centric. So this FEMS and field sample database are an interagency system. So strongly urge you talk to your partners, anyone that you talk to on a fire, prescribed burn, ask them if they're using field sample database. So I have my screen share, and Lee, are you able to see that?
Yeah, I got it.
Perfect, okay. And so right now I'm in the FEMS homepage, and I'm gonna drop this link in the chat. You can easily find FEMS by Googling it, but I recommend you pin and save this as a favorite. So once you're in FEMS, you'll notice that there's these green bars up top, the tabs. It doesn't always appear, so if it looks different, you can change the setting, the zoom level on your browser. So if I'm at 100%, I don't have those tabs up top. So if I click the 3, then I have the login, then I have some of the tabs. What you don't see is field sample. And so to be able to see field sample in the tabs, you need to log in. So if you're watching this demo, why don't you go and try to log in as I give the demo. So the 2 options for service, you're going to choose eAuth. If you're non-federal, then you'll choose login.gov. And if you don't have an account, it'll walk you through setting up an INAP account. Everyone get that? That blue button login for setting up an account or to log into Field Sample. Once I'm logged in, Field Sample appears on that top green bar, or it's in that 3 lines, that hamburger. So next thing we'll do is we'll open Field Sample. So we're in. So I'm going to pause here and talk about access. We have a lot of, the rollout has been based on access roles. And so I'm going to introduce different access roles. I have a little table associated with each of the roles. So I'll talk about that. So from the field level, those who are collecting fuel moisture samples and entering it in, they're considered a field sample collector or collector. So you can go in, you can create interstate site data or delete the sample. At this point, you're not able to edit the site data, so the sample data. So that's something to consider when you're entering in data. Just make sure before you hit the green submit button, or it's actually blue inside of field sample, that you double check that everything's right, the time's right, the sample's right. You can, after you've submitted, you can update your fuel moisture values, but as far as like the timing and all that stuff, you can't edit later. So the next level up is the field sample group editor, or group editor for short. This is typically at like your forest level, your fuel specialists at the SO. They can go in and create new sites, and then it's linked to the group itself. So the group that I work on the Nez Perce Clearwater, just going to demonstrate that. We go into Northern Rockies and then scroll down to the Nez Perce Clearwater. So this is a group here. And underneath the Nez Perce Clearwater, you can see the different sites. So the group editor, Justin Papani and TC Peterson, they can go in, they can edit the site locations in there. Okay, and then the next roll up is an area editor. So that's someone that's typically at your geographic level or region level. And so here in region 1, that's Jonathan Olson and Kristen Sanders. They have the ability to create new groups, delete groups, edit groups, assign group to an area. So if there was a group that was assigned in the Eastern GAC but needs to move to the Northwestern GAC, then they can move that over. And then the FEMS admin, that's who we were just introducing. So that'd be myself, Scott Turner, Scott Lynn, and Travis Vertigan. So I'm going to pause here. If you don't have access and you want access, please put your name in the chat. And then what role that you're looking for. So collector, group editor, area editor. What's important to know is the area editor, so the FEMS admin and area editor are both able to give access. So if you're curious who your area editors are, I do have a table and we're working on adding this information into Field Sample Database. So if you're looking for a list, just hit us up in the chat and we can give you a copy of that geographic level area editor. There are some troubleshooting things too when you're setting up an account. Just a heads up, when you go in and you're trying to log in, make sure your pop-ups are, you're able to receive pop-ups. So if it's disabled, pop-ups are not able to come up, then you are not going to be able to log in. Cool. I'm noticing some chat folks looking for access. Awesome. Just keep entering in your name and then what level you're looking for getting access to field sample. Okay. So once you're logged in, you'll see this green field sample. If you don't have access, then you're not going to see it. Even if you're logged in, you're not going to see field sample. Things to note when you're in here are the important information link. That's either this yellow banner or the top yellow here. So selecting the important information link leads you to some information on our rollout. So Scotland was saying we're developing this as we go. And so right now we're on FEMS 2.1. And so keep clicking in that important links so then you can see here what's the latest FEMS changes, what are updates to this. So this is that rollout in May. And so there's information and updates in Field Sample Database, some changes that you can do as a group editor and a collector. And a key component is the updated Field Sample Database user guide. So by selecting this, you'll be able to see our latest version of the user guide. This is going to be updated as we go along. So the last update was May 21st, 2024. Any questions so far? And feel free to jump in. I know there's a big hiccup right now is just getting access, and it can be frustrating as you navigate. I want to make sure you guys have the tools you need to be able to enter data. Okay. So I'm logging into our staging environment so then I can run through a sample and entering in a fuel moisture level value, fuel moisture value. So logging in, field sample in the top green bar. So there's two ways you can choose and find a site. So you can search for a site in this top right hand corner. If you know the name, it'll take you directly to the site. If you are not sure the site name, you can narrow it down by the area. So if we go to Rocky Mountain, the Arapahoe National Forest, then I can go in and select the different site locations. From here, there's site metadata you could take a look. So if you're a group editor, you can go in and edit this if there's something incorrect. The remarks for this one, for Pickle Gulch, sample site is 25 yards from the raw station, the aspect, the date it was created, where it's located, percent slope, and then sample date range. So once we're in here, just note the sample start date and end date does not show all samples. So you can go in and change the year. And so we know that the sample date range is from 2006. So I'm going to select 2006 to now, 2024. And let's take a look. So 1,000-hour fuels. Right now it's limited to 5 rows per page. I'm going to select all. We've got data from 2020, 22, 2006. So at this point, there's not graphs, but a rollout will have graphs in it. So it's really important. The more data we enter in it, the more data it's going to be relevant to the graphs that we do. So from here, you want to enter in a new 1,000-hour fuel at Pickle Gulch. And you know that it's a 1,000-hour fuel and you want it to be grouped with these other ones. So click this blue button, new sample. And from here, you'll select the date and time. We'll say July 1st at 1400. And then blue button, new sample. Okay, so now you're ready to add in your samples. What's really cool about Field Sample Database compared to the National Fuel Moisture Database is you don't have to average beforehand. You can add in as many subsamples as you have, and it'll do the average for you. So the wet weight, say it's 100, the dry weight is 75 grams, and then the tare weight at 5. Click the blue check mark, and you got 35.71%. Done the math. It's done the math for you. Say you have multiple containers and you've numbered them, and you know the value, the percent value of this one. 38%. Ooh, got an error. Let's see here. So this, I'm in the staging environment, so this container number is going to look different if you're in the production. This is a new thing that will be rolling out soon. So just focus on the wet weight, the dry weight, and the tare weight, or you have a choice between entering the value. So it's either or. Once you're done at entering in the subsamples, click submit. So it's taking the average of your subsamples for that day and entered it in. There's another way of adding samples. So if we go back to Arapahoe Roosevelt, Pickle Gulch, and we want to add Doug fir. So you can create a new sample and a Douglas fir. Choose Rocky Mountain Douglas fir. There are some types that have asterisks or don't have asterisks. And so note that if you're going to choose one of the ones that don't have an asterisk, it's not required. So if you're going to choose lower, middle, upper, old, new for the fuel type, then you have to do it every time. Otherwise, you're creating a new sample, a fuel type inside of your site. So recommendation is honestly just keep it blank. Unless you consistently know you're going to choose the old, new, or where the location is. And same with the method. It's not required. And once you have it selected, you have to select it for all of them. Sample date and time, July 1st. And I didn't choose a date or time. So go back in, selecting time on this bar on the right side. A new sample. Any questions so far?
Yeah, we're getting a few coming in,
Okay.
Rachel, through the chat. So first one is, are collectors able to just enter the fuel moisture on its own? So they've already done the math. And
Yes.
answer to that, yes. Yes, Justin, yep. And you can just enter in the value. You don't have to worry about doing the actual, adding in the other information. So Laura asks, will there be tips that pop up or other messages to remind us of the tricks like for subsample? So there are, I'm trying to think where we have them on here, but you should be able to hover over some certain information and it'll tell you the information that you need to like a little pop-up basically that shows you what information you need in that. But as far as the feasibility of that right now, we have some, but it's not very widespread. How's that? Is not a great answer, but I think that's we're still working on the development of that. So
We have a user guide, Laura.
Yay, thank you.
Robert asks, can you link the document that describes users and access? And I think, do we have that posted on the portal? Oh, you muted. You got muted, Rachel.
Yep. Okay. I don't think the table is on the portal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Robert, we will get that, make sure we get that posted up on the portal, so it will be available.
But you're welcome to take a screenshot now. I'll just leave it posted.
Or if you want, you can post, we can post that in the chat too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take a screenshot and drop it in the chat. Other questions?
Evan, if you want to jump on, you had a question. You suggest build a group versus individual site samples. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. We're going to be setting up here to put our sample information into this. And then I was just looking, your group was set up for your force specifically with your sample sites. So is that the best practice versus just hitting add site individually? Keep them grouped is what I saw, if I'm remembering.
So I think what you're asking is, do you have to have a site associated with a group? Is that what you're asking?
We should make a group first and then add sites to that. Is that the flow?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And then if previous personnel added groups or sites for our geographic area over here, is there a way just email you guys if we can't delete those out just to keep it clean, or do you not worry about that right now?
Yeah, no, we definitely want to clean that up. Right
Okay.
now, so I'm in the staging environment, but yeah, if your group editors are wrong or area editors are need to be updated, please contact us.
Okay.
But the group editor, your area editors will be able to edit. It's just at this point, the FEMS admin is the only folks that can edit who's displayed for area editor for that
Perfect.
geographic level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Rachel,
Go
Travis,
ahead.
one thing I'd just add as a suggestion on that is if go through and see if you have any of those sites, if any of your stuff already exists, if you think you had some of that legacy things. So for instance, if you had a forest that, what was the example, Rachel, from Nez Perce, it's the Nez Perce Clearwater. So you may have had a group that has a different name. We can just maintain that group and rename it to what you need if it's already contains what you have. So before you start adding groups, kind of do a little homework and see if there's anything we can work with that's already there.
Yeah, Travis, that's a good point. So like the Arapaho, not to call out the Arapaho Roosevelt, it is like a combined forest. So they do have both Arapaho and Roosevelt, and so that would take some time for the area editor to clean up and combine them instead of making a new one that's combined.
Yep, and a good example. So in Minnesota, we took an existing Forest Service group and just rebranded it to our Tier 3 dispatch interagency group, but everything that was there previously remained, and we just started adding into it.
I dropped that table in the chat for folks to reference.
And Kira asks, when will they have access after roles have been upgraded? So far, she's not seeing field sample. Kira, if you haven't seen it yet, you should be granted. It's pretty well instantaneously. So if you might want to do just close your browser and restart would be my best bet or best guess of why you're not seeing it, because it should be pretty well instantaneous that you have it. And if not, go in and clear your browsing history would be the other option. So, and then Josh, you had a question. We have a live fuel moisture sample that has a different method being used, not specific and blank. How do we combine them into just one? And I wasn't sure if you wanted to jump in and explain that one a little bit more, or Travis. or Rachel, if you want to be able to field that one.
Yeah, I went back to like we did in the beginning here, back to the sample start date, went to the past. And I'm just looking at one sample site and has, like it said, under method has not specified and the other one's just blank. So then I just don't want people messing it up and put in one, in either one or the other, I guess. It's the same site.
Right. Yeah, let's just look at it together. What's the group name?
So it's gonna be Great Basin under area, and our group is the Humboldt Tabby.
Okay. HT.
And it's
What site?
this one would be Lee
Okay,
Lee.
we can.
Canyon. Yep.
Cool.
It's under both the Utah juniper and the pinyon.
Right. Yeah, so that's kind of what I was, and then yeah, the pinyon, right, the pinyon and juniper. So because one was chosen once and then you have the second one. So that's
Great.
the,
Can you open those both up?
oh, sure, yep.
The Utah and the.
I guess what we did for this year, because it was new and we didn't know what we were doing for 2024, we just put blank. So maybe the past ones were not specified, and then because some of it overlaps the dates.
These are duplicates somehow. So just a little bit of history. The National Field Moisture Database as it exists did not have a subcategory or a method. So everything was blank that got brought over from those sites or from that database. The utility of the subcategory was built in to allow for more flexibility in how we differentiate what we're sampling. So if you think about sagebrush, if you were sampling new growth versus old growth, you'd want to know that because you'd expect to see different values and you'd want to be able to chart those differently. So going forward, if you want to start capturing things like subcategories, we can totally do that, and we can adjust historical data, but that's going to be a little bit more intensive. We're building a process for that, but we're going to hold that pretty tight, probably to the admin level, and just have people reach out because it's going to be it's going to allow for mass changes, but we could make a lot of errors really quickly if we don't watch that. So if you have that desire to be able to have the method or the subcategory applied to some of your historic data, hang on to that for the time being. In the coming releases, we will have a process, and then we'll be able to get you in contact with somebody. Like Rachel's probably going to be on the back end of the detail, but we'll just hang on to her and still just send everything to her. But yeah, we'll be able to manage those types of changes through a mass change process.
But yeah, just looking at your data, it is a duplicate all the way through.
Yeah, in this case, I would just pick one that you're going to add to, and we'll have to resolve the other one.
Yeah. Other questions? Does that answer your question, Josh?
Yeah, it does. And I'm also not a scientist, so under your methods, it has like gravimetric. I know what a moisture probe is, but what's gravimetric? We're just using hand sampling with an oven. So should we just do non-specified?
Travis, do you want to answer that?
That would be a gravimetric method. I mean, that's the most common method, right? You don't have to categorize it if there's not any use to it. Really, where you'll get more use out of that method is, for instance, if you're sampling 1,000-hour fuels, dead fuels, and you want to do a comparison between two methods, highlighting the method or specifying the method actually gives you that ability to compare the data then. If you don't have a reason for it, best case is to just leave it blank.
Other questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Nothing else in the chat right now.
Hey, Rachel, while I'm off mute here, just a quick thing I noticed, because we know that we get this question quite a bit, but can you just show in the staging up at the top, the breadcrumb back to the group?
Yeah. So staging environment. Let's go into Canyon Field Office, Arkansas. Yeah, shout out Justin Papani. This is a request. So this next rollout will have like a back button. You can just go back to the group itself instead of going back to the field sample homepage. And then you have to like research for things.
Yeah, so basically every time in the current production environment, you want to go, say you're working through a group, you have to just re-navigate every time, and it's a real pain. So that's how it currently works, but it is going to be fixed here in the next release.
So
Ton-
comments, go ahead.
Yeah, Tanya did ask, are you going to talk about accessing the results? So Tanya, I
Yes.
guess, yeah, was that next on your agenda there, Rachel, or?
But yeah, do you want to go into FMR?
We
Yeah,
can,
this is-
yep,
oh,
go ahead, Tanya.
Sorry. Yeah, my question is, like, if I'm on an incident and I'm in a location where I'm not very familiar with the raw stations that are available or collecting fuel moisture data, and I just want to be able to look at the map and see like who's been collecting samples, what fuel types they're in, and right now I have to sort of hunt and peck for each RAS in an area through the tables menu in order to find a table that's been populated, because I don't enter data, I'm just a consumer. So I guess that's what I'm wondering about. Thanks.
Yeah, Tanya, for you, we locked you out from seeing all the other cool features.
Thank you.
No,
So it's a feature, not a bug.
yeah, it's correct. No, we know that it's not available yet. We are working on getting it. So best practices right now, and I know it's not what, as you're doing your analysis for fires or anything else, is going to be, having that local contact and finding out what sites they are collecting, because we do, that's where you're going to have to do is search the site that way. We do not have the mapping capability yet, and it's probably not going to be a feature that's available yet this fire season, because we're transitioning from our current mapping system of Kepler over to Esri later this fall, and we didn't want to be building in or taking the time to develop mapping features in a system that we'll be getting or upgrade or changing to. So yes, there's going to be, I guess that's for everyone. You're gonna have to really make sure that you talk to people about that. And then the other option is, again, looking at the FMR web portal. So this is the Fuel Moisture Repository web portal from San Jose State. And I'll let Rachel kind of go through a discussion on this. And I think we have a recording on this one as well, correct? On the website? Yep.
I need to double check it's posted. So San Jose State University talked 2 weeks ago at our office hours. So we are doing a field sample database office hours. So you all are invited. It's shared interagency. It's Thursdays at I think 10 Pacific time. But so you can access and jump in and ask any questions. So the San Jose State University presented this fuel moisture repository web portal, and it is linked all of the fuel moisture data from the National Fuel Moisture Database. And they are working on linking data from the field sample database. So I did check out this morning. So this is in North Central Idaho. And just the FMC climatology plot data. I did see a 2024 sample that popped up. And so I'm not sure how far along San Jose State University is with integrating field sample database, but I know they're working on it. So that'll be really helpful with fire season for our LTANs and users. I know you and meteorologists, like would be really helpful to have that readily available. And then my browser froze. Let's try again. Idaho.
Yeah, it might be easier to start year being selected less.
Okay.
So you can either do it at the very close, if you refresh the screen or reset the map, and at the very bottom you can adjust and look at it via the year as well.
Yeah. So scrolling down the year, let's put 2018 Idaho. As this loads, I'll drop the link in the chat for the fuel moisture repository. Maybe not. I just saw this like a few minutes ago. Scott, have you had luck opening this? Maybe you can do a demo of it.
Rachel, do you need to pick live fuel or dead fuel on the upper left there? Which one you're looking for?
I haven't had to before, but I can. Probably just need to reset the browser, my cache. There we go.
So San Jose State pulling in new samples was the question. They are working on having it so that it's I think once weekly that they were pulling in the sites. And that was to try and capture, the information as people update them. We had talked with them about it being updated more frequently, but considering most sites are only updated once every couple of weeks, they felt that seemed to meet their needs. But we can talk to them about adjusting that if we needed to do it more often than that. But right now it's on a weekly basis that they update. They are, again, working on getting the 2024 data added in, and they have gotten some in, but it's not all in for sure. So.
Do you have a site recommendation to look at, Scott?
No, I haven't been in a while, so honestly, I can double check real quick. But
yeah, I was just looking at Idaho's, and there was a 2024 in Red River, and that's what I was gonna show. But yeah, I recommend playing around with it individually and taking a look, doing a little experiment locally. So Elise, I see your question. It seems like only Idaho may be in the fuel moisture repository. I don't think so. I think that maybe something's down with the website because I haven't seen it work like this before. So
yeah, I think something's funky with it right now.
Maybe 100 people all logging in or all using
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, because it usually is pretty well seamless. So
the other thing too is to try if you are a remote worker, just try disconnecting. But that's something if you want to experiment with, to disconnect from the network and then try it.
yeah, Rachel, I'm having the same issues with it right now. So
Okay. So maybe try it when we're not all on the same call, and then or come to our office hours this Thursday, and we can ask San Jose to come back, or maybe they'll jump on our call, but that could be a good test. Yeah, so Tanya, your question for the fuel moisture repository, FMR, yeah, you'll have to reset to get back out to the different states. That's how they have it set up.
Couple of our comments on the fuel moisture repository site, and then Michael up on the lesson talks about all site or that a site is showing as active in the database, and then he would like to get that shown as deactive. And we know that there are some sites we can make that change occur. We'll capture that information. What happened is when we brought over sites from the old system to the new, we just activated them all to enable people to edit in the information. It was a conscious effort or decision that we had made, knowing that we could then go back and activate and deactivate sites in the near future here, and we'll be giving those options out to make those changes. Those are going to be at the group level to be able to make active and deactivate sites. So.
Yeah, so you can go in and if whoever your group editor is can go in and change it from active to inactive.
And then Laura asked, will the repository be changing to Esri, or did I misunderstand? No, it's not just the fuel moisture. It's just not the entire FEMS website will be changing what we have right now. We will be switching, so our mapping system that we have in the background, we're going to be switching from that to Esri-based system. So you did not mishear that. We are moving over to Esri-based for our mapping system. So.
Yeah, and that fuel moisture repository is just like, thank you, San Jose, for letting us borrow it or letting us use it and share it. And so
Yes,
it's very kind, very kind of them. Other questions?
Rachel, we got about 15 minutes left. I just want to be conscious of time. If there was something else you wanted to cover or lead us through, I think excellent information and great discussion.
Thanks, Lee. I see
Anything else?
Eric's hands up. Eric, do you want to jump on?
Yeah, just a quick question as far as accessing products on FEMS. Are you working towards being able to see historic trends and graphical data for that when you click on a site and see, where the 1,000 ZARs are in relation to historical averages? Or is the best practice right now just to download that data off the FMR portal and then work through it that way?
Go ahead, Travis.
We have some really cool stuff coming for data visualization. So yes, the historical trends are going to be there. In the meantime, if you need that, you can actually download. And Rachel, I don't think you went through the download process, but you can download the data, and if you want to graph it yourself, you can do that. You can use the fuel moisture repository from San Jose State if it's working for you. And I think it's going to be in the next release. So I think we've got a couple of releases before we get fully capable with our visualizations, but within the next release or the one after that, I believe we're going to have an ability to connect directly to the data with an API so that you could set up your own graphics and track things locally. Again, that's all temporary solutions. We're going to build it right into FEMS once we get to that point. Just like anything, only got so much developer time and resources that we have to put our priorities to.
Yeah, one of the questions Michelle had on the graphical data will be available to general users. Yes, that will not need to be accessed through as a, to input any data. That will be available to all.
Other questions? Did everyone get access? You can raise your hand if you didn't get access and we'll troubleshoot it.
So far, everybody that asked for it, I was able to get in so far at this point. I think I'm at the bottom of the list.
Matt, it
two
looks
people.
like.
Yeah,
Go
there's
ahead.
2 people with their hands up. So
Yeah, one thing too is if you don't have an INAP account, the area editor or FEMS admin can't find you. And so you'll have to say, so if someone's like, hey, I can't find you, go in, follow the login button and follow the steps to create an account. And you can also add when it's like, add your supervisor, who do you want your contact? You could add myself, you could add Scott Turner, and we'll get notified once you have an account created. So Lee and I ran through this earlier on the call. And so he used my contact information for when he was setting up an account. And then I was notified when account was set up. Otherwise, we're not going to know that you set up an account. So you have to follow back up with the area editor or FEMS admin to get an account.
we had a couple people with their hands up.
Matt, do you want to troubleshoot your login issue? Or we could do it after the recording.
Yeah, so I'm logged in and I received an email that says FEMS prod is approved, but
Okay.
the field sample still doesn't come up. I've tried closing out the browser and opening it back up.
Okay. Another trick when things are clunky inside of FEMS or field sample is any browser you use is go into the settings of that browser, and then you want to look for your cache or your cookies and go in and clear out your cache in here. So
Yeah,
delete.
I did that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's work with you off the recording then, and we'll get it figured out.
Okay, sounds great.
No. Wade had a question is, can we combine groups? Who do they want to coordinate with? So they want to take a couple of groups and combine them together.
Where are you based?
Wade is in Wyoming.
Okay.
Medicine Bow and the Route National Forest.
Yeah. So Amy Russell's your area editor. I would contact her and work with her. There's also Andy Pummel. And I can drop the Rocky Mountain chat folks in, so you can contact any of these folks. And then if they need help, they know to reach out to myself or any of the FEMS admin. Yeah, Andy White, Amy Russell, and James Pummel are your Forest Service contacts.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Rachel, just on that note, that functionality currently isn't available, but is coming. So you may have to make note and then stand by for a bit till we get to that in production.
Yeah.
Copy.
The workaround for that was to switch some of the sites to one group and then change the name of the group. And then the other group that's no longer being used just says like not used. So the area editor will just update it and say not used, and then we'll clean that up. And the back end, like Travis is saying.
Yeah, and that won't take the data from both of them together. So in the example I gave before, we didn't have an existing group. We just renamed a group and started adding to it. If you have 2 existing groups that need to be combined, and if both of them are full of data, your best bet is to stand by. If you've got one group that only has like a year's worth of data or something, you could go in and manually just enter it and then deactivate the old group once you get that done. If you're not sure, definitely ask questions and just kind of put it in the queue.
Rachel, we had a request to see if we can get the list of area editors, and I don't know, we can just paste that, what we have in the chat for now, understanding that those area editors are changing. We're trying to get it so that we have a report that links to INAP that you'll be able to have on FEMS, so that you'll have a contacts button and you'd be able to see who everything is, and that's going to be linked to their roles in INAP. But we're waiting for those capabilities through INAP. We're told that hopefully a couple of weeks we'll be able to have that. So
Hopefully that's not too clunky of a copy and paste, but I copied and pasted the area editors in their chat.
Rachel, looks like you have a question about deleting or archiving if you make a mistake. So you can go in there, that message about archiving. Technically, we don't delete any data. So if you make a mistake, that's fine. Just go ahead and allow it to go to archive and make the correction. The data will exist, and that's just a fail safe, so we don't lose any data. That's the last thing we want to do. And if need be, we are building features into look at what we call an audit log, so you can see what's been done over time if you need to kind of put the pieces back together. But in this case, I think the simplest thing is just hit the archive and go re-enter it the way you want it entered, fresh.
Thanks, Travis. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for hosting us, Lee and Jen. This is such an awesome group.
Great information. Thanks for the presentation, Scott, Rachel, and the team. I've covered a lot of material. Wonderful. I learned a lot.
yeah, thank you very much, Rachel, for hosting this and leading everybody through it. Really appreciate you taking the lead on this one. So